Teemu Arinen, ich hoffe, ich habe den Namen richtig ausgesprochen. Teemu, I hope I pronounce your name in the right way. Teemu is from Finland. He's one of the leading figures in the field of biohacking. He also is the curator of the Biohackers Summit, which takes place annually in Finland, but also in Stockholm and in London, as I saw. He's an author in that field and also a successful entrepreneur now since more than 2 decades. And he loves to speak about this topic. And today we asked him also to answer the question not only about the measurement of his own processes, but also what does this mean for the pharma industry. And with that, I would like to ask you for a round of applause for Teemu Arinen. Hello. Nice to have you here.
Wonderful to be here. I will leave my brainwaves here if you want to, pay attention to it while I'm speaking. So, with the technologies of today, you are able to take your performance, health, and well-being to a new level. And personally, I've looked at the intersection of man and machine since I was 16. I'm 37 now. And I was here in Germany, actually, in 2015 to receive the Leonardo Award, which is also handed over previously to the founder of Wikipedia, Jimmy Wales, for his work. And for me, I got this under the title Humanity in Digitization. I've been also chosen as the Speaker of the Year in Finland. So I like to kind of articulate and communicate where our relationship with our tools and technologies are taking us as we go forward. I'm a biohacker, which means basically that, like a hacker, I would be looking at the human body. I'm a technologist, so I look at this as an information system, as a computer, as a biological computer. You go down deep to the DNA level. What is primary? Information, DNA, that changes through epigenetics, how the environment influences gene expression. And by understanding how your environment is influencing you, you can influence your future. It's not only your family lineage and genetics that plays a role, but you can actually influence that while you're still alive. You can silence or you can amplify certain gene sequences that could lead to increased risk for diabetes, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, or you could silence them. So I'm interested in this kind of data. How can play it down from this microcosm level up to the macrocosm level of lifestyle and behavior, and in the end influence what's going on. And understanding this computer, all the metabolic pathways and all those, how I can hack those with nutrition, but it could be also drugs in certain cases. That's what medical doctors do. They give you something that changes the way how certain things work, and maybe that helps to restore the balance, the homeostasis, the human body. So I think nature is one of the key regulators of homeostasis, and our disconnection from nature is one of the leading causes why we have so much problems today. So I'm kind of looking at, in a very holistic way, how this thing that I call health optimization is taking us forward. Because in the end, biohacking is better living through science, technology, and nature. So we are not going to abandon our technologies. Technologies are helping us to go forward, but we can't either abandon nature and our understanding of things like our microbiome in our guts that links to our food system and food supply and things like that. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, I wrote together with my colleagues, medical doctor Olli Sovijärvi and nutrition specialist Jaakko Halmetta, we wrote this book called The Biohackers Handbook, and it's the missing manual of the human body. It's over 500 pages or 1,500 medical references, or 5 years of work, hundreds of illustrations. Books like this don't come out very often. This is a passion project for us. We did this for ourselves, but we did it in a form that other people could, tap into it and get some of the benefits of the synthesis that we've done in terms of preventive healthcare. So there's a lot of discussion about healthcare today, but to me, most of that seems like it's a discussion about sick care. Our healthcare system is a sick care system. It focuses on rewards for treating sickness and diagnosing sickness. If someone is healthy, it's often an absence of diagnosed disease. For me, health doesn't mean absence of diagnosed disease. It is something else. When I'm looking at blood work, I'm not interested in reference range. If it's outside, maybe you have something that we need to kind of dig deeper into. I'm interested in what is the optimal range, within reference range. I'm interested in, my genetics, not to discover if a medicine is going to be good for me or not. I'm interested in genetics to, do things like nutrigenomics, where I inform my nutritional decisions based on my genetics. Many of these are kind of emerging fields, but definitely a future field. Now, biohacking was actually selected as one of the topics for the recent Gartner's Hype Cycle report, where they look at emerging technologies. And most of the emerging stuff that we see coming up on the Hype Cycle are related to biohacking today. Things like AI supporting things like augmented reality, things like external assistant, self-healing systems, technology. These kind of things they've been picking up. Brain-computer interface that I have right now. This is just like simple example. I could use this as biofeedback to teach myself to a meditative state faster. I could use this to diagnose perhaps things like ADHD. But I'm interested in these kind of relationships where it could take us. By the way, technical guys, if you can get my slides here, would be awesome. You can't? Okay, great. Sorry if I need to turn occasionally. But biohacking can also be defined as these things that we modify in petri dishes to create artificial life forms, like what Greg Venter, the inventor of the human genome, does. Or it could be even implants or exoskeletons, different ways how technology is used to enhance the human body. So there's many definitions to it. I'm interested in more the softer side myself, so I don't have any implants, but I have a bunch of wearables. And I like wearables that don't look like wearables. So for example, this ring is one of the most advanced activity trackers on the market right now. It doesn't look like one. This watch is tracking my stress right now and doesn't look like one. So I think in terms of culture, many of these tools will be embedded in our everyday reality that doesn't really seem like they're part of it. If you look at human progress, starting from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, that's when we learned to process materials into mass-produced goods. And mass production was really the beginning, really begun with our invention of using water as a means for or of leveraging or moving human work to machineries. Then came the steam engines, and that gave a way also for steamboats and railways and all that. Then we went on to electrical engineering and automobiles, and that gave birth to the oil industry and all of that. As we have progressed through the Industrial Revolution, it's not been kind of like a steady, exponential curve alone. It's full of these S-curves. So there's a paradigm of technology that takes place for a brief moment of time. There's winners and there's losers, and then there's a new paradigm that dominates. Now we are in the ICT, the digitalization, where we are moving from oil as the primary means for making value to bits as the primary means of creating value. Now, ICT is not going to last forever. There is something coming after that. And I think the discussion now in healthcare is kind of pointing already towards that. But if you look at data itself, it's the new oil. 10 years ago, the companies that dominated the stock market were based on oil, things like Exxon, PetroChina, and Shell. Now we have companies that are based on digital oil. Companies like Alphabet, basically Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tencent, and making massive investments in understanding the data dimension, making value out of it. In this, it's important to remember that we are technology, that we are primarily technology. We are an information system. And as we shape our tools, those tools start to shape us. Think of your mobile phone. Think of an automobile. Our leverages, our tools, by definition, are changing us. And they are not just outside of us in the future, but they are inside of us. They're part of us. They're physically part of us already in medicine when you have a hip replacement or you have eyeglasses or something like this. But we will be able to extend human capabilities beyond what it means to be human. So that's basically transhumanism, transcending what it means to be human. Human augmentation is the next phase. The first one was human automation. Industrial revolution was about human automation. We automated human processes with tools and technologies. Now the next phase is where technology is augmenting what we do. It's kind of observing what we do, and based on what's happening inside our bodies or in the way how we see the world or how we solve problems on our computer or what we search, it's kind of augmenting, it's kind of helping, bringing you information that you may need in that moment. Or, take your unique characteristics into account and giving you personalized nutritional or exercise recommendation. That's where we're heading with a bunch of different technologies. Human augmentation. This is a pretty interesting little biohack. It's called the North Sense. It's a sensor that senses where north is. It's basically a compass. And when you put it in your body, you can start to sense where north is. Sounds pretty interesting. You can be a bird or a dog, kind of like. You can sense direction better. As humans, we have this internal compass, but we kind of lose contact to it. Aboriginals are much better navigating, in rainforests and open oceans. But we have kind of lost that. But you can regain that ability by putting this thing in your body. And often, after 2 or 3 months, because of neuroplasticity, your nervous system starts to sense direction, almost in a subconscious manner. And it changes your memories. You remember when you visit a city like Berlin, which direction you were looking at when you looked at something. So this kind of changes our experience, potentially. The human nervous system has great capabilities of taking us to a new level. Right now, we are using these clumsy fingers with our mobile phones, but there is much more potential for controlling computers with our nervous systems than what is possible today in consumer products. And many of them are already here. Things that can read your muscle fibers activating and can, maybe be new types of interfaces for moving around drones or your car or whatever. And they're becoming easier and easier to use as well. I see that the biological and technological intelligences will merge in the future. Those are kind of separate now, but they're coming together. And that will create a completely new kind of world, and also the next phase for industrialization. The first one was the steam engine. The next one was the assembly line, where we modularized human work and created all these sequential models. Germany was great at all of that. And then computer automation. Finland was awesome with this, Nokia and all of that. Linux computers, all that. So that was basically taking the automation a little bit beyond. So it's kind of the extension of the Industrial Revolution. And then technological convergence, where all these different technological pathways are merging in things like self-driving car or a mobile phone, where battery technology, computing power, connectivity, user interfaces are coming together. And that creates a technologically converged product. Now the next phase is the biological and technological convergence, where we merge with our tools. So kind of computers have already moved from our desk to our pockets, on our skin, and next inside of our bodies. We are becoming our tools. And that's kind of the next phase. And we are kind of doing it already with, doing maybe tailored, specifically for you, tailored medicines, or maybe nanobots in your bloodstream. So exponential technologies are basically leverages for us to achieve things that we can't otherwise. Every 18 months, we've been able to double the number of transistors on a chip. In a similar fashion, we are building on the past. And as we go forward, it's not linear, it's an exponential curve. The number of technological paradigm shifts every decade will double. We've seen that in computation that has been driving it with Moore's law. We see that in Nielsen's law in terms of connectivity speed. We see that in the explosion of data that we are recording. In the next 10 years, we are recording more things than maybe in the whole human history. And it's not only that we encode information, but we are also much more capable of decoding it, understanding it. So basically creating a structured data set so that we can search it and we can understand better what we created. If you look at battery capacity, and that's been improving. So a lot of the problems with all these mobile devices and wearables and all that is that you have to charge them all the time. It's kind of a nuisance that the battery runs out. But on this ring, this can last already a week with one charge, and the charge is maybe 45 minutes. And that's awesome, so you don't have to really think about that much about the energy. Maybe in the future this takes the energy from my body or the movement, or your mobile phone, the battery charges when you speak to it. So things like this could be happening next. The cost of lithium-ion batteries going down has also caused many of the cost of these devices to go down. So if you look at electronic vehicles, the cost is going down, and soon you are getting kind of sport car level performance with the investment of a typical family car. And that means that we will shift from oil-based industries to completely like electronic digital industries. It's kind of makes economical sense, it makes environmental sense, it makes business sense to do that. This massive reduction of cost has happened really fast. In the last 10 years, many things that cost a fortune is now super cheap. Things from 3D printing to robotics to sensors. Half of the price of a self-driving car of Google, that is kind of tracking and mapping things, the sensor on that car was half of the price of the car. Now it's a fraction. So even your mobile phone in your pocket, if you bought all the capabilities that are in it when they came out, things like ability to record video, ability to communicate with someone on the other side of the planet, that cumulatively puts in each one of us pockets around $1 million worth of production capability with the investment of maybe $400 or $500. So that changes things. It democratizes things. Cost of human genome sequences has gone down. So 10 years ago, it would have been 10 million. Now it's less than 1,000. So I've done it. So it means that when cost comes down, it's no longer just experts and specialists who do it. It's every single one of us who has access to technology like this. This demonetization leads to democratization of innovation. So more and more people will have access to things that were within labs previously. So digitalization creates this massive disruption of industries. And you can already see it, you look at home gene editing, you can buy $160, you can start doing yourself some bacterial gene engineering with a CRISPR kit. This type of technology kind of was used to modify the human embryo recently in China. China is actually taking back the role that they had for centuries as the leader of the world. It's only, modern times and industrial time that they've been, just servants of us here in the West. But they're taking it back in digitalization because they don't have to ask anyone when they record data, analyze it, and use it for their own purposes. Here in Germany, here in Europe, people talk about GDPR, First question always here is like, okay, what about the security demo with all these, wearables? Chinese don't care. You probably have to, by law, carry one of these devices so that they know exactly what's happening. And it's a big country, so they have the leverage. So, the US is constantly in some kind of crisis and regarding, leakage of, how personal data has been used. So the West is completely in crisis in terms of data usage, while China silently is building, their digital empire and understanding of human behavior. They have best AI technologies and algorithms, and they have the data sets. These bikes, city bikes that they have, you can leave them anywhere you want, and with your mobile device you pick it up. With that data set, they can see, where people live, where they go to work, how they commute, but they can also influence city planning. They can decide where a metro station is going to be, things like this. So cross industries, you can use these data sets for different purposes. Maybe you can use, activity data to influence medical outcomes. And that's kind of the thing. You can cross things in completely new ways. You look at human population growth. From 0 to 1 billion, it took this long time. Then from 1 to 2, it was a short period of time. 2 to 3, 4, even shorter, and shorter and shorter. The human population has been growing like crazy. And part of that has been our industrial, technologies and our advancements in medicine. And what I'm talking about here is part of that will help us to double, triple, quadruple, who knows, lifespans. So we've been able to double in this time the average life expectancy from 45 to 85. And maybe we get to 120. Maybe many of us will hit the escape trajectory that you live forever. Maybe you are in a simulation, a computer. Maybe we 3D print every single organ of your body with something that never dies. Who knows? But this is very interesting times to be alive because things happen so fast. But the question is, will technology evolve faster than we as humans do? Exponential technology meets linear humanity. Are we able to keep up with it? And not just in terms of like our understanding, because it seems like AI is going beyond or even our cognitive capabilities and problem-solving capabilities in many narrow areas, maybe in a broad area soon. The percent of adults with chronic health conditions is increasing as we extend lifespans. And that leads us back to preventive healthcare, because we don't die from bacterial or viral infection that easily anymore. It's usually, old age of complex chronic disease. The future of health is in the data, data mining these things and putting them together in different ways and understanding where you are. Not just health information, but information from your environment, information from your behavior and activity, and the things that we can learn indirectly by data mining. We can learn to map the micro and the macrocosm of health. The human computer is being understood better and better than ever. This is the blueprint, the different pathways in our bodies, and we don't know yet much. The more you study this, you realize, damn, we are far away. But with computers, with machine learning, we'll be able to tap into complex understandings that as humans, with our kind of reductionist logic, we can't reach. And we are the next platform, It's not the computers. We are the next platform. Before computers take over, we, merge with technology, and we become the platform. We become a bionic platform. And the different data source for this bionic platform, starting from our understanding of DNA, genome, transcriptome, proteome, the different signaling cascades, and phenotypes and epidemiology, population level things. Bioinformatics is super key for understanding, this complex future. This computational biology is the next field that many of us need to learn, because bioinformatics will be for health what the microscope was for biology or the telescope was for astronomy. When you dive deeper into it, just I think a couple of days ago they announced that they discovered some imaging technology to better quickly, like just in an instant, realize if you have a bacteria-resistant bacteria, what type of it is, and so you can select the right antibiotics for it instead of waiting for days for growing things in the lab. So this will save lives, that we will have this early detection, early prevention kind of means, and we can tailor-made even things like antibiotics, and we don't use them for no reason. The use of AI in radiology is very important, because maybe here we have enough resources, but in developing world, there is not enough doctors who can read those images. If computers are reading them already better than humans are, human experts, for specific conditions, we will offload that kind of work to computers to be done. We are inventing the tricorder that was already invented in Star Trek, what Spock uses to analyze a human being and immediately know what's going on and what we need to do. There was a recent competition on building the tricorder. This company won. They can have this home device that can track 34 different health conditions, from diabetes to atrial fibrillation to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, urinary tract infection, sleep apnea, leukocytes, etc., stroke. You don't have to go to the hospital. The reason why we need to go to hospital is like half of the revenue comes from diagnosis, half of it comes from consultation, prescribing drugs and all that. So we will decentralize both diagnosis and consultation. You don't have to go to any facility. And we have so many hospitals that we are building because we expect population growth and life expectancy growing and all that. We are building on the past, not on the future here. China has opened the first AI-assisted treatment center, fully automated AI-based cancer treatment center. I'm a big believer in quantified self. Technologies that help us to dive deep into self-knowledge of numbers, that is becoming not the conscious act anymore, but almost subconscious, kind of ambient technology that's tracking what you do, sensors, wearables, all that. Lab tests are becoming easier. Maybe when you donate blood, we also analyze a bunch of things from it. And these are the things that I've been paying close look at. We are moving from quantified self to quantified health, from measuring to diagnosing to treating disease. We will develop novel therapies that are tailor-made, customized for you specifically. We are becoming not just blood donors, but data donors with all these trackers. Maybe we need to catch up with China here. So here is, a toolkit that every one of you could buy, a bunch of different sensors all around your body, and then you donate those to, multinational companies that don't play on any law of any country. And you can also donate that to your government if you like. In Finland, we are already connecting self-tracking data with medical data, and 99% of Finnish people have access to government systems through digital identity. And I also live partly in Estonia, and they threw all the medical, all the hospital tools and technologies and systems into the trash bin, built from scratch with 5 million euros in 6 months, a completely new system to replace that. In Finland, they spent like $1 billion, and it's a completely failed project to integrate things. But some countries are able to catch up with data like this faster. And what this data enables is that you will be able to move from just a number, how many steps you took today, to actually this device knowing dangerously a lot about you. For example, it could be your coach. It could tell you how to live better. Do things before it's too late. To me, it's more expensive to treat disease than it is to improve health. So if you can improve health while you're still, I think you should treat yourself when you're healthy, because it's super expensive once you're sick. So with this kind of technology, you are able to kind of dive deeper into the data sets and understand, by combining different data points, which things, lifestyle interventions, could, reduce your risk for diabetes, cardiovascular disease, all of those things. So I have this damn ring. This is a Finnish invention. Thanks to the collapse of Nokia, we have this. There's a lot of great people working on cool digital health companies now. There's more digital health companies in Finland per capita than anywhere else in the world. And with this thing, I know my readiness score in the morning, how I slept. Obviously, like different sleep components, but also my nervous system readiness for that day. So if you do a lot of air travel or a lot of deadlines and work, you kind of know if you're pushing yourself to the limit, if you're going to get chronically elevated cortisol or not. So these are becoming easier and easier. I'm actually wearing right now an ECG monitor on me. It's going to be on a wrist. Apple has on their watch algorithms to detect atrial fibrillation at 96% accuracy. It can alarm you about something going on, and maybe you should check with your doctor. I have on my wrist my ability to track stress and recovery, my sympathetic nervous system activation, my parasympathetic nervous system activation, rest, and being active. The balance between those is key for maintaining good health. So when I run from one meeting to another, these are the things that I use. Here's a good example of one conference I went. I had like 13 meetings. And here you can see no rest, no recovery during the day. I gave some presentations also. On the second day, I decided to do an experiment. I do deep breathing thing and meditation practices right before every single meeting. And after all those meetings, you see a lot of recovery happening there. I also noticed while doing some of these things that when I moved to nature, my average stress just dropped. I didn't have to do any additional biohacks. In a city environment, I have to do everything possible to reduce my risk for getting ill. But when I'm in nature, suddenly I just recover faster. My sleep is deeper and better. My nervous system is more balanced. And even though I work as much as I did previously on my computer, I also have 24-hour blood glucose monitoring. With this technology, I'm not a diabetic, but I like to inject things on myself to understand my energy levels. So when you understand your energy levels, you know if you're eating a bagel, if it's a good idea or not. If it spikes your blood sugar, insulin kicks in, it drops, you get super tired. You start to pay attention to what you eat for lunch. I have a friend, who was pre-diabetic. We did all this sugar, stress monitoring and and testing on him, but it was not real-time enough. But the moment when he got a real-time monitoring, he started realizing, damn, that rice is, damn those potatoes. He stopped doing that, and he's now no longer pre-diabetic because of the data. So data can change your behavior. This inconvenient truth about your health is the key for fixing your health. So you have to expose yourself to the data from your genetics, from your behavior, all of that you're putting under the carpet that you think that doesn't exist, that doctor is going to fix if you broke. We have to get beyond that because our system is overloaded. There is just too many patients, all that. We have to move that to computers. We have to grow up ourselves and take responsibility of our own health. No one else is going to do it. The doctor is not going to do it. It's you. You is taking care of your own health. So with these sensors, we are moving from getting occasional snapshots to real-time information. And with real-time information, you can move to predictive understanding of where your health might be going if you keep on eating those bagels for lunch. So we are moving from wearables to insidables that we inject and put into our bodies. Most of them are kind of experimental still, but they will be better as we go forward, much faster than we think. And that enables us to move from healthcare that is reactive to healthcare that is proactive and predictive and prescriptive before you get ill even. I'm a big believer in data. What gets measured gets managed, like Peter Drucker, great management thinker, said. In companies, we have all these KPIs, but do you guys have KPIs for your own health? What are you tracking? Cholesterol levels, maybe blood sugar. Those are some of the key things, but you can go beyond those to better understand where you're going. Here's some of my own data from 6 years. My risk for cardiovascular disease, crystal size to HDL ratio, my hemoglobin A1C, I was pre-diabetic when I started this. Now I'm fine. My kidney filtration rate has been improving. I have genetic increased risk for kidney disease. Now, you look at hormones. When I started this, when I was 30, I looked like I was a 45-year-old man. Now, I look like I'm 24. So, no hormonal replacements, none of that stuff, just lifestyle. These are not random variations. These are completely predictable outcomes that come from becoming conscious about your own health, where it's going. So I don't think it's a good idea to test people every 10 years or every time they get a new job or so. I think you should test yourself every freaking month if it's possible. Snapshot yourself. There's this term, what is it? Medicalization? I love that. I think medicalization is awesome. Let's overdiagnose everyone because that's going to save us eventually. I'm part of also advising one company that is doing lab tests, but not for detecting disease, but detecting health and improving health. I'm not interested in reference ranges, but optimal ranges where you can get with these. Because in the end, it's lifestyle, it's environmental factors, it's everything that you do, your behavior, habits, your addictions, all of those, that when you become conscious about those on a meta level and serious about it, you can really influence how this biological machinery is working. And when we make this black box visible, which also includes all your subconscious processes and things that you're hiding, that's when we can get to the next level in terms of human optimization. So today's patient is already doing a bunch of research. They know already a lot before they come to the doctor visit. They do a bunch of research when they go home. They have all kinds of online services like Patient Like Me. In the future, we will have new service concepts that combine all of these things in a digital platform. And, digital pharmacies are coming. I don't know if here, but, at least in Finland, the law just changed. And we will have completely new service models through which we are offering things. So you have chatbots maybe, as part of a pharmacy service. Maybe the pharmacy is communicating with the doctor. Maybe there is, maybe you don't go to the pharmacy. Maybe you go to, a shopping mall. A self-service kiosk refills your pill prescriptions. Maybe you get completely personalized packaging. Maybe every single pill is personalized based on your genetics. And maybe you get an insidable. If you have a condition, like maybe a skin condition, like acne, you get a completely personalized, informed by genetics and lab tests, service protocol. So there will be pharmacies that are not just selling everything, but specialized on specific conditions or things, and they do it better than anyone else. And that's the opportunity with digital, because then you can achieve, with a niche targeting, a market that was hard to reach previously. Pharmacogenetics, obviously a big thing. And in the future, doctors will be prescribing not just medicine. They will be prescribing you mobile apps to download and install on your phone to manage your condition. AppScript is a service in the US that is for doctors that gives them a score that how good some of these apps are for specific conditions, because not every doctor has time to download every single app on the App Store and try them out. You need some kind of curation for doctors specifically. Maybe they will prescribe also self-tracking devices that they can prescribe. You should get this app or this device. So that might be the future here. Telemedicine, you don't need to go to the doctor anymore. They are coming, that's going to be probably an AI bot, because most average doctors are not very good, so AI is going to replace them anyway. They will replace the doctors for sure. Just looking at a simple thing like a headache, there could be 5 million different options and variables that the bot is able to take into account and then tell you what you should do. But I'm a big believer in the toilet as a platform. Every morning you go to the toilet, you leave your package behind, and the data of it gets sent directly to your doctor, your feces and your urine samples and all of that. Every day, every single day, it's being read by AI, and then it decides if you're not going to go to work, or if we need an ambulance, or you need some help. So that might be the future. Maybe the Japanese have already a good head start on all these intelligent toilet seats. Anyway, the future of healthcare will be proactive, it will be predictive, it will be preventive, it will be fully personalized and configurable, it will be data and intelligence-based, it will be decentralized, it will be crowdsourced, and it will be democratized. The winners of this will be completely different players than there were previously. Just like in the automotive industry, as we move into from hardware to software, the winner is not going to be the German, automobile industry that focused on the hardware, but it will be the software companies that they outsourced, their crown jewels, companies like Apple and Google and Microsoft are potentially the future car makers. Who knows? But anyway, so it's kind of key to understand where the future is going and what you're outsourcing, what you're bringing inside, and what kind of capabilities you're building. But I think one of the most important capabilities is to build a flexibility of the mind of what's about to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Timo. First question, and we only have 2% more of battery life on your iPad.
That's right, then I'm going to die.
Yeah? So what do we see here?
So these are the different frequencies of different brain waves, and you have alpha, beta, theta, etc., different signals on different frequencies. So when I'm super highly active, I have much more of the higher frequencies that are active at this specific of time.
So are you active right now, or is that more medium?
Yeah, I mean, giving a presentation like this is, it activates your sympathetic nervous system, increases your heart rate, your stress, so my adrenal glands are releasing some cortisol, and I'm more hyperactive. After this and before this, it's good to increase theta brainwaves so that you get into more of a relaxed state.
Meaning meditation before and after?
Yeah. So you increase more of these longer waves. And the breathing is the key to the autonomic nervous system. So you extend your breath and you close your eyes, you reduce sensory inputs and all of that, and you let that happen naturally.
You were briefly touching base on the development in China. And I just came back from there a week ago, and I thought
Where were you?
I've been to Beijing, to Chengdu, to Shanghai, and to Hong Kong.
Awesome.
Actually, leisure leisure trip. But nonetheless, it was really interesting to see how far advanced they are already with integrating technology in the daily life.
Certainly.
And now, do you think this adaptation rate of technology, also with biohacking, might affect us here in Europe in the future? Because if they can do that at scale, the prices will drop significantly, and they will crowd the market not only with cars, super good, cheap cars, but also with all other things. So
certainly. I mean, if you look at cities like Shenzhen or Guangzhou, like Shenzhen used to be like 10 years ago, 200,000 people, now it's 16 million. And it's the fastest growing employer in China. And that's where they have all the headquarters of internet companies, and that's where they're developing, many of these things that are in our pockets. So they kind of have, and they're super geeky guys also. When I went there, giving presentations like this, I realized that I don't know anything. These guys know more. When I talk to them after I go off stage, and they have all these questions that I can't even understand. So they are already ahead of us, like. Obviously, they're more about the manufacturing right now, but in terms of the data as the oil of the 21st century, they have better access to oil reserves right now than we do, because we are controlling all of those and the diesel oil. And you can see that already, like 100% of public transportation is electronic already. Here we are, competing if you should have a combustion engine or not. They already moved on from that discussion. And the surveillance feels super secure, right? It's everywhere.
I thought it was really strange. Even in domestic flights, you have this facial recognition everywhere.
Yeah.
And then it just selects people who are not allowed, and they are not allowed to travel at all, even in domestic flights.
If something happens, maybe someone steals something from you, you go to a police station. But their police station looks like a typical kiosk here, and then there's a virtual police officer that's going to come on the screen. And then they're probably gonna search all the cameras where you were previously, because they see your face, and then they can recognize what happened. So it's super safe to be there, for sure.
Yeah. So this sounds, at least from a European perspective, like a dystopia.
Absolutely.
After the break, we're going to talk about moonshots and desirable futures. So futures that we want to live in. What would be your desirable future with all the data that you're collecting and seeing this technology being more and more adapted?
Future or futures, because there's multiple ones. But for me specifically, many people ask me, do I want to live forever because I'm doing all of this? And I gave it a serious thought. For us as species to be able to adapt to a changing world, which is changing much faster. Our biology is not keeping, up with our change in, our lifestyle, for example. So one thing is to become conscious about it and do something yourself, like, have a watch that tells you to stand up and move around a little bit, or breathe, take a deep breath. So paradoxically, we have all this technology that is now telling us how to be infants again, how to, breathe, move, eat, all that. That's sleep. That's what these trackers are all about. And as we go forward, the challenge here is, to me, when it comes to all of this technology, is like, if we extend lifespans, evolution by natural selection happened by, that our genes were, taking that signal from the environment and adapting. Now, if every one of us is stuck at 24 years old, or if, you live 120 years, each one of you, but the environment is changing faster, we have no other option than to start modifying ourselves. So we have to go to gene manipulation. We have to manipulate maybe you in your lifetime. Just to make sure, do whatever, stem cell therapies or whatever, just to, make you work in future. So I think it's much safer to let nature do this, because I don't know if we are intelligent enough. So I don't want to live forever. I don't think extending lifespans is a good idea from a species point of view. Yeah. But if we do that, we have no other choice but to give, technology and our tools some power here.
I would have so many more questions about life-enhancing drugs or brain-enhancing drugs and all that kind of stuff.
I can give you one.
Yes.
In the future, your state of mind will be a choice. You just press a button. Maybe it's an electroceutical that snaps your brain into a specific creative mode or, productive mode, or out of depression or whatever. Or maybe it's a, pharmaceutical or nutraceutical, something. But definitely, the state of mind will also be a choice. Maybe it's a simulation within a computer that we can decide how it runs also. So who knows?
Okay, a bit of food for thought for the next 15 minutes to discuss all these topics in depth. So big applause for Teemu. Yeah.